Hello and welcome to a presentation by the Federation for Children with Special Needs. This is part of CPAC Summer School. Tonight's session is session 2, and it's all about the processes and the tools that groups use. We are using the Serving on Groups national curriculum as the basis for our CPAC Summer School this summer, and we're talking all about how to participate in a group and be an effective member. So the agenda tonight is to kind of define some principles that guide groups. What are you going to have in common? What do you strive for to define your group? Talk about some of these decision-making processes that groups use, and then some of the tools that you can use to help either run your group, or if you are a new participant to a group, understand what some of the tools that your group is using. So it's great to start with things that pull us together. How can we be effective in a group? It's all about shared decision making. And so we're going to start this graphic here in the bottom left-hand corner with shared vision. And I think it's wonderful if you can find what you have in common, kind of define, what do you want to do, what do you want to accomplish, and where you want to go. And if you agree on that, it's a good start. It's a good foundation for building on and moving through the process that you have to go through to make decisions. We want to make sure that everyone in the community is represented. So if your CPAC it's really reflective of everyone in the community, and you need to make sure that you know who is in your community so that you can make sure that they're invited to the table. That's going to bring that strength, that breadth of information and ideas to the table when you have everyone represented. And understanding that you're all equal partners in this, you're working together. Some people might have specific roles in a group, in a decision-making group, but really it's all about making sure that you're listening and everyone has an equal opportunity to participate. And that might mean setting some limits on time, because it's about collaboration, and that's really where we're going, is how do we come together and work together. And you might need to bring others to the table to support you along the way. So it's not just the group that you're in, but it could be others outside of the group. And collaboration is that goal. Having a shared responsibility for whatever decision making that you do take, and making sure that you show up, and even if you didn't agree with the direction, that you're part of the group, and you're a good group member. You participate in the activity, and build those friendships, build those connections, and hopefully your ideas and your issues can rise up to the top as you start to make inroads in the group. Because I hope that the group is sharing all the information, that everyone has accurate, up-to-date information on which to make these decisions, so that whenever you get new information, you need to share it out to the whole group, even if they haven't participated in the past. And that's just respect for everyone, that everyone is working from the same information. And I hope that your group really strives to have some production, some results. It's really hard to be involved in a group that never gets anything done, unless the purpose of your group is just conversation. But most groups, have action items, and people want to see that their efforts are effective, and that they accomplish something. So that's part of your group principle, in that you set some timelines and goals to move it forward and to show that you're actively involved. So those are some of those founding principles that guide groups. In each group has a certain kind of a process that they would follow. It's how the members are working together to get things done. And there's lots of different ways to do it, and you might do multiple ways, especially on larger projects. And so these are the ones that we're going to talk about tonight: information gathering, goal setting, planning, collaboration, evaluation, and then different processes for reaching agreement, because that's sometimes the hardest part. So there might be different ways of doing that. So in information gathering, there's lots of ways to do it. Some groups come together and just invite, an idea brainstorm. Everyone can contribute. Let's put everything down on the table. Let's get all the ideas out there. And it's a very creative process, and that's fun for a lot of participants. I hope that you're gathering accurate information from a variety of sources. So you're not just getting one perspective, that you're really reaching out and looking for, what information do we need to know? Often a group or a CPAC would have a focus group and bring people together for a specific focus, to get data, to get information. A lot of us are tired of completing all those surveys online, and it's much more fun to come together and have an interpersonal, whether it's virtual or in person, kind of a meeting with others, because ultimately you're going to have to prioritize. So gather that information so then you can go through that process of prioritizing. Goal setting is really important because it helps you focus. So what does the group really want to see happen? Many CPACs have a vision statement or a mission statement, and that helps really keep them focused on what they should be doing, because you can get pulled in lots of different directions. I think a lot of families of kids with special needs know the SMART goals, so that when you are setting your goals, these are things that you need to consider and set aside and ask those questions. Like, is it specific? Is it targeted so that we can know what we are doing or what our goal is? How do we measure it so that we know that we've accomplished something and are moving forward towards that goal? Is it attainable? Is this realistic? And then you want to also make sure that you set it some type of time frame so that it doesn't go on too long. You can always expand your timeline, but it's good to have a targeted end date so that everyone is seeing that we're moving this forward. So setting a goal is another process that a group will use to move something forward. A planning group, those are the ones that we do a lot in CPACs, because we run events and activities, and that's the who, what, when, where, how. And so you'll come up with some kind of a plan, an action plan, and schedules, but it can go a little bit deeper. So your planning group can plan, around your vision or where you want to go, or a larger issue that you're dealing with. And that might mean developing another type of tool, like a logic model. So, what are the things you're going to feed into this? What are the activities and the participants, and looking at different types of long range or medium range goals out there. Setting aside some strategies. Having a plan means you're actually going to get something done, because you put it down and you documented what the action items will be. I think one of the things that we need to always keep in the basis of all of our decision making is that, as a group, you need to work together towards that common goal and set expectations among your group members so that you can move forward. And I think the best way to do that is really good ongoing two-way communication, networking. You want to make sure that everybody is aware of where you're going and what you're doing, and everything then it's just more meaningful. People have more buy-in. We had during the live session, we talked about some of the benefits of collaboration, all the diversity of ideas, the creativity, somebody bringing something up that you never thought of before. And that's all exciting. And that's the fun part about being in a group, is that, you listen and learn, and you're now focusing your work in a new way, and you'll go far. It is just it's the right way to really bring about systems change. Along the way, I think this is something we're always so busy doing that we don't forget to stop and say, is this working? So that evaluation process. A lot of times we do that at the end, a summative type of evaluation. We measure the final results, but I encourage you as you're going along to monitor your process. And that's gives you an opportunity to maybe modify or change things a little bit along the way, things that aren't working, and you can fix it early on and make things go a little bit more towards your end goal. And so having a process to continuously evaluate and improve is a good process. And that might be something of interest in somebody comes forward in the CPAC, and that's just what they do for the CPAC, you know, that they provide that evaluation process to help the group do better and to improve and to, you know, listen to the concerns of those who are participating. This is the area I think that a lot of us struggle with is, you know, reaching agreement. So CPACs have different ways of, you know, making those decisions. And I've outlined two here. There's a formal structure of voting, or there's consensus agreement. Voting is a lot more formal. There are people that put forward motions that are seconded so that now it's ready for debate or discussion. People can ask questions. There's like a sense of really having a conversation within a structured setting, but then there's a move to end discussion, and you will actually have a vote, and the majority usually decides. And Robert's Rules of Order is usually the standard tool that many groups use to give their meeting process a formal structure and to allow it to follow along a structured way. Consensus agreement is much more informal. And here's where an idea or an action will be brought forward, but there's discussion, and it'll continue until everyone agrees. And so that's really a very inclusive way of allowing a smaller minority to have effect on a decision. And it's so amazing to me when I see that happen. Recently was in the community where a group brought forward an idea, and they were very rigid in, yes, take it or leave it. And the group said, well, we don't like this, that they brought it forward, you know, we're going to reject it. And so it was that process of rejection that caused them to rethink. And they came back to the kind of the table with, okay, so what didn't you like and how can we work this out? And so a compromise came forward. And I think the end product was so much better because it just had more eyes and ears on it, and there was more buy-in, and that compromise was really the key to a better product. So it takes longer, it's a little bit messier process, but it might lead to better outcomes. And I think we're had a discussion during the session as to, you know, are there issues that you can have a formal vote like elections, but maybe other issues that would be consensus driven in terms of reaching agreement. So a little bit more about Robert's Rules of Order. If you haven't done it, most public bodies operate using this structure. The link there is to the PTA organization, which has a really nice kind of a short, basic cheat sheet of how to do it. But basically, you need to have a quorum of the body present so that it's enough people represented to make a decision. Somebody will actually bring forward a motion, and then somebody else in the group will second it, which now It doesn't state that you're in agreement with the motion, just that you want it to move forward for discussion. There'll be discussion. There's lots of rules around that, ways to amend the original motion and have that move forward. But at some point, there will be an end to discussion and questions, and someone will move the question, and you'll actually have a formal vote on the motion. So if you are new to a meeting, go and see what the culture of the meeting is, how they operate, and have your instruction sheet on how Robert's Rules works. And if you are tasked with leading a meeting and want to use Robert's Rules, then you might want to do a little bit more reading so that you understand how to follow that, because the chair will lead the meeting and call on people to contribute and participate. Because we've all been to those unproductive meetings where the participants or the leaders aren't prepared. It's very difficult to have a meeting without an agenda. And it doesn't give people notice of what discussion is going to happen at a meeting. So a meeting without an agenda could sometimes be a train wreck. Often there's not enough information, or the data is lacking. So it's hard for the participants to even participate and process some of the decisions because they don't have the information. You know, at the end of a meeting, sometimes there's no action item created. It's very frustrating for people who've spent a lot of time and discussion and nothing moves forward. If there's no timelines or deadlines, things just drag on. And if you don't follow up, then, you know, these are ways of driving people away from your meetings, is that they're not productive and they don't see them as moving the group forward. And so we want to avoid this. And so there's some helpful tools. Often the chair might ask somebody else to facilitate, maybe a neutral person, or especially on a tough issue, or that somebody would be structured to make sure that all voices are heard. Setting aside those ground rules, taking the principles we talked about in the early slides and making them much more formal, or reminding people of how you're going to operate, I think is a great idea. An agenda is key. If it has time on it, like we're going to spend 15 minutes on this issue and 25 minutes on that issue, then you can kind of keep on track. Often it's good to ask someone to be just the timekeeper and to remind the chair, well, we've reached our 10 minutes on this issue. If you want to take another 5 minutes, I'll just deduct it from another item on the agenda, because you don't want these meetings to go on forever. Try to respect people's time and end on time. Often your written guidance might be your bylaws, which would help define the roles of people at the meeting, or maybe how the meeting would operate, you know, how you take votes. So those are some of the tools, but I also want people to be aware that there might be some hidden or unwritten rules. For example, there's a fundraising event coming up and you just didn't, you know, set that on your calendar and you don't attend. Well, you find out later that all group members always attend the fundraising events. That's the culture. And so you really need to know that. And so you want to put all these dates on your calendar so you can make the best attempt to attend all of these events. And I also counsel people who've been involved with a group for a while, if a new member comes along, that you start to kind of give them some clues as to what some of the unwritten rules and practices of your group are, so that they can feel at home and they have the right expectations. Not everything's in the bylaws. And so it's helpful to let people be aware of how you operate and what your group culture is. Because I think the goal of a lot of our work is for you to be effective when you participate in a group and their process. I think that's what is going to grow your group, when everyone realizes that they are valuable to the group, their ideas and their input are important. But I think you need to do your own homework to be that productive person. So I hope that you organize all of your information about how the group operates, keep a set of the bylaws around so you can refer to them. Make sure that you're focusing on the group's goals. You may have some self goals or some self-interests and issues. Once you get involved with the group for a while, you can start bringing those forward. But originally, you're going to have to buy into the group and what it's set up to do. You can't really move it in a whole new direction right away. There's ways of steering a group. I hope that you try to keep track of where some others stand on some of these decisions so you can see where you might network to move an issue forward, who has similar stands on positions that you might have, and where you might find some alliances within the group. If you have any questions along the way, ask the leaders maybe to explain either their role or the issue or how things are done. Asking questions is always a good thing so that you can really be an informed participant. A lot of times I take my own notes, even though a group might keep minutes, my notes might look a little different. And so you can always refer back to them. So keep a record of the decisions, retain the minutes. Even if you don't attend meetings, you might want to download and make sure you have copies of the minutes so that you can jump back into a group if you've had to take a couple months off, or at least you can follow the decision making and know when you need to attend a meeting or when you need to provide some feedback to the group, because you are a member of this group. And so the only way that this group is going to grow and change and develop is when lots of people get involved and participate as best they can with their time frame and limitations. So here's a couple of resources. Robert's Rules has a website, but I really think you should check out the PTA cheat sheet. I really think it's much easier to access, and it's a good guide for you to keep in your back pocket. I also like this mycommittee.com website, which has a site about best practices, info, and tips on meetings. That's just another practical, quick read online resource for you. And all of these are available online. So thank you very much for attending, and I hope to see you at session 3 of CPAC Summer School.